Since the beginning of his career, Park Chan-wook has been dumbfounding critics and captivating audiences with his unorthodox films portraying violent revenge plots, torrid love affairs, and a deep-seated fear of uncertainty. Park was born in 1963 as part of a generation who grew up in post-partition Korea. The 70s were a turbulent time in which Park lived in Seoul before eventually deciding to study philosophy at Sogang University in the city. After graduating, he became a director's assistant and worked most notably for Kwak Jae-young, famous for directing the popular 2001 film My Sassy Girl. After a few early films turned failures as a director, Park focused on being a film critic, showing a controversial admiration for director Sam Peckinpah, who was nicknamed the master of screen violence. Peckinpah's approach to storytelling can be seen as an influence in Park's works, especially in the integration of violence in all levels of society. Park made connections with other influential Korean filmmakers like producer-director Lee Jun-ik, the founder of Cineworld, a leading production company at the time, and, more recently, the director of The King and the Clown in 2005. Through this partnership, he went on to direct Joint Security Area, or JSA, in 2000. JSA proved to be a massive hit, achieving phenomenal box office and critical success. Since JSA, Park has gone on to make many films, the most well-known being the Vengeance trilogy, completed between 2002 and 2005. The standout film from the series was the 2003 cult classic Oldboy. According to critics like Kate E. Taylor-Jones, it was Oldboy's macabre, violent, and highly transgressive narrative that saw Park become one of the most well-known and popular South Korean directors on the international circuit. In many ways, Park is seen to personify what is known as the Korean New Wave. The term New Wave has been applied to several other film groups and eras, including one from an earlier epoch of Korean cinema. But this new wave emerged in the late 1990s and continues to this day. Park's films explore the complex feelings of tensions that exist in all aspects of South Korean society due to the legacy of partitioning in Korea. Tension also rises from the dramatic economic growth and subsequent drop in 1997. Oldboy, in particular, can be seen as an allegory for the very real fear of the unknown enemy, social upheaval in one's country, and division within the self that was felt throughout Korea during that time. To convey these feelings, Park uses framing and design elements to create visual borders and divisions between and around his characters. As demonstrated in the film JSA, these directorial decisions require that the viewer recognize the tension that lies between opposing sides within the film and confront it head-on. The main sticking point for critics is Park's consistent and seemingly excessive use of violence and gruesome acts in his films. According to film researcher Steve Cho, many have noted, often pejoratively, the spectacularized nature of the sadistic acts depicted in Park's films, which seem devoid of any justifiable motivation, including that of revenge. However, when asked about the nature of the violence in his films, Park defends his artistic choices, saying he wants to explore the fear just before an act of violence and the pain after, which applies to the perpetrator as well as the victim. In an interview with Tatler Asia, Park comments the following.
폭력이 정말 어디에나 폭력이 존재하고 그것이 사회를, 집단을, 또 개인을 움직이는 힘으로 작용해요. 유일한 힘은 아니지만 정말 가장 큰 힘 중에 하나죠.
Taylor-Jones summarizes Park well. She asserts that Park refuses to offer a normative, moral narrative, but rather creates situations where the worst of humanity can be shown, and we are left to deal with the consequences of violence, rather than being given any possibility of redemption. Whether informed by his rocky adolescence, uncertainty of living in post-partition Korea, or the polarization that we see in the world today, Park Chan-wook has created a portfolio of work that asks audiences to question their own inner divisions and move toward a society in which violence may not always be the answer.